Welcome to the Super Speedway.
I think this was the first time I led lap 200, so I wish it was 1998 rules. But no, it's just part of the course. Just used to it, and come down here every year to just find out when and where I'm going to crash and what lap I come out of the care center. And who won? I don't even know who lucked into it. There you have it.
Welcome to episode 267 of the Super Speedway podcast, recorded Monday, February 20th, 2023. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, there you have it.
And there you have it. Eric, he did the thing that you love so much. He just said he, forgot 20 plus years of history and said, no, 1998 rules.
Right. Yeah.
Which we haven't had in 15
right.
years or so.
Right.
Yeah, that I know that's your favorite thing when everybody likes to run the clock back to the non-existent rules of today. So.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this is a little different because at least he's not talking about the point standings. He's talking about the green-white checker rule. But, good old Kyle.
Yeah, he knew he lost the race when he made the comment over the radio.
Yeah.
That he said, well, boys, if it was 1998, we'd win it. But yeah, we had 30 miles to go. So poor Kyle. At least he's in mid-season form already with his new team.
Right.
He made the Kyle Busch face all week, which I've thoroughly missed. So that's good.
Yeah, it was good stuff. I'm stalling here for a second because I'm trying to get back into give credit to. It was Andy Rue on YouTube is where we got the audio from. So thanks to Andy. For that. I know there were a bunch of people with the audio, but I want to credit the right person because, I wasn't there. So, but good to see somebody get old Kyle Busch on the record, of course, at the end of the race. Daytona 500 is in the books. And,
yes, it is.
And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is a Daytona 500 winner, James, before. So, Tony Stewart doesn't have a Daytona 500 win. Kyle Busch doesn't have a Daytona 500 win. Who else? Who else is on that list? Not having Daytona.
Yeah,
500
well,
wins?
here I'll list off a few. Rusty Wallace.
There you go.
Brad Keselowski.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them now. It's getting to be, it's getting to be a who's who who hasn't won yet. Ryan Blaney's getting up there now. Yeah. Chase Elliott is getting up.
Blaney's got to be probably the best guy right now who hasn't won one yet.
I'd say Keselowski still.
Yeah, both of them have been pretty close. I guess both of them have been.
Brad, I was.
I thought it was going to be
my rooting interest was in for Brad because I don't know what more he can do. He's led the most laps multiple years in a row now, and I don't like. Is he any worse of a driver because he doesn't have this Daytona 500? No. But my God, what more does he have to do? And same with Kyle. Kyle was freaking there. That was setting up to be such a fantastic finish, and then it all went kaput at the end. But I was really looking forward to what we had kind of in front of us that was brewing.
We'll get into some of that. Before we get there, though, let's talk about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. getting the Daytona 500 win. Already locks himself into the playoffs. Turns him on his head, James, because we already know that there's one driver that made it last year that's going to be out this year.
Yeah.
So what a way to start the season for Stenhouse. For JTG Doherty, there's no better way to start than a Daytona 500 win. Is this race getting to be now to where it's less about the best and more about the guy who lucks his way in, as Kyle Busch put it?
Well, I wanted to say this, and not to sound disparaging to what the Daytona 500 is, but I feel like the sheen that is the Daytona 500 is starting to wear off a little bit because the underdog used to be rare enough that it was special, and it's not special anymore.
No.
After the last three seasons have really taken the special feel of the underdog out because we are crashing at such a high rate. And not to say the guys who won aren't good. Like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is really good. Michael McDowell is really good.
Yeah.
At these super speedways, we know this, but man, I was really pulling for the legacy guys, and I don't know. It's too much.
Wait.
Russian roulette
The
now.
legacy guys the team legacy?
Not the team. Yeah, not the team legacy. No,
sure.
No. I'm talking about when I say legacy guys, I mean like the future Hall of Famers of the sport, like Brad, Kyle.
You don't see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as a future Hall of Famer?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a season with over 10 top 10 finishes, so I don't know if I can quantify him as
won the Xfinity Series championship. Dale Jr.'s in the Hall of Fame.
Doesn't Ricky have 2? He won back-to-backs. Yeah, so I guess if the Dale Jr. rule applies, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right, there you go.
Because he's got the 500 and the 2 Xfinity titles. He's got the same resume as Dale Jr.
He does.
Incredible.
He does. A few less wins, but
yeah, it's fine. He has one less Daytona 500, but still.
Yeah.
When he's applying for that job, he's got all the same stuff that Junior's got. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those. I mean, to me, it feels really similar to the Michael McDowell win. It's a surprise, but not a surprise because obviously Stenhouse has been good on super speedways. He's won on a super speedway before.
A couple times.
Yeah, at one point we were like, this is the new king of super speedways, and then he just started wrecking all the time instead.
Yeah, I fondly remember that because that was the first year of our podcast.
Yeah. And
he was ripping them off, and we thought, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I remember having those conversations. That's that was a while ago. So,
yep.
But yeah, he's here now.
Yeah. So I mean, again, shaking the playoffs up a bit. I think we already kind of expected that would probably happen this season anyway. Because I mean, first of all, it was hard last week to decide who we were going to leave out of the playoffs. Yes. And there's so many options of people to put in, and neither of us had Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on that list. So I'm expecting more of those shakeups as well as we go forward. But
yep.
Good on Stenhouse for getting the win. A lot of guys really excited for him, both Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, really excited for him. Obviously, good friends from the dirt racing scene and all that stuff.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of like Ricky Stenhouse haters. I think it's a semi-popular win, but not. There's a lot of us want to see one of those guys that have been trying for so long to get it done, and just didn't happen again. Thanks to a late caution, as seems to be the theme in these super speedway races. Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon had a pretty good shot lined up front to back, and then for some reason decided to split the lanes on the restart. James, what was it? The second to last restart, I think that they did that.
Yeah, second to last, and that was the let Kyle Busch down maneuver. But that,
am I wrong that was stupid?
No, I think they should have just stuck together. I think you're better off just sticking together.
I get the point. Their thought is that no matter which line gets the advantage, one of them is going to be in the lead. But the problem is Kyle moved down too fast to stop the outside lane from having the advantage anyway, and then they couldn't hook. Yep. It was just seemed like it's one of those instances where these teams are given a new rule and they overthink it. Yep. And they overthought it, and it cost them a chance at a Daytona 500 win because Dillon ends up getting wrecked, and Kyle loses his partner.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of 2008 in a little bit of a different situation, but Tony Stewart was leading on the last lap and had the Penske run behind him, and all he had to do was stay there.
Yep.
And they couldn't come down, but instead he went down with his teammate Kyle Busch and parachuted backwards, and cost him probably his best shot at the 500. Obviously, he was leading with half a lap to go. Similar here, I think you just stick together, right? That's the maneuver. You get Austin pushing you right off the bat, and you just never leave his bumper. I think you're in a better spot because what ends up happening is, like you said, Eric, he went down too early, and then what happens is the line coming from the bottom is still trying to catch up, and then they get a massive run.
Well, they're trying to catch up. They get all checked up because here's Kyle going slower, and now the outside lane's got the momentum already because they're all hooked up.
Yep.
And I mean, just like as soon as he made that choice, I'm like, are you kidding? Like, what in the world?
He'd been better off to stay high and not even worry about Austin at that point. Just stay up there.
It's the same concept as Joey Logano in the duels last year that got him wrecked at the end. It's the same idea as the blocking. Yep. You can sit there and block both lanes, but I don't remember who it was that did it at the end of the race on the Cup race, but it was jumping both lanes, then ended up going to the back too.
Yep.
It just concentrate on your line, work on your line, and let it come to you. The more you try to influence the other line, the more you get yourself into trouble, and that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, and I think, this is a point I wanted to make too, is whatever this rules package is with this new car, it's just the cars just don't race that well.
Right.
Like
it gives the illusion of great racing because they're side by side every lap. But they don't. We had a bunch of lead changes, but it was the front two cars switching spots every lap.
And they don't make the runs that they used to. There's just not a lot of space to maneuver in there. It's just a tight box.
I will say it's interesting though, James, because whenever somebody decided to make a move, they did it no problem.
Yes.
So I think these cars actually maneuver better than what it appears. They just aren't making the moves. Maybe they're getting smarter and waiting till the end. I don't know. But as soon as Kyle and Dylan went to the outside, they went right by on the outside. It was like nothing.
Yeah, and I feel like there's no freedom out there. Like, you're really boxed into a certain window, and you can make a move inside these little windows of opportunity, but you can't be 12th and line up and start flying up on the outside and make them, like, it just doesn't work the way it used to. I was watching some old Daytona 500s, like the old, Gen 4, like I'm talking around 2005 era, and man, the cars just drove a lot different. They handled terribly in the corners. So there was it creates more space when you've got a car that's not bouncing around in the corners. It just creates a lot more space for these guys when they actually have to drive it just a little bit more. I wonder if we have a lack of horsepower type of thing going on here. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know exactly what that is, but you're right. I think they can pass, but it's so extremely difficult. And I think what ends up happening is what happens here late in the race. It just becomes a slam bang, push the person up, and then they're out of room and there's a crash.
Right. Well, your Xfinity package is much more similar to what we used to run, and they wrecked out of that one too. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I can't defend that.
Probably doesn't matter really.
That could be a lot of factors when you're talking about the Xfinity Series.
How would you like to be the guy who is starting your first Cup Series race, your first Daytona 500, and you finish 11th with a chance at the end? Because Travis Pastrana had a chance.
He had a chance at the top 5. That's for dang sure. That was so cool, man. What a day. I mean, he screwed up a whole bunch of times. Yep. But he was able to get back on the lead lap, and he led a couple of laps, Eric, which is cool.
Yeah.
How excited were you for Travis when you saw that final result?
Oh, so excited. So excited. Yeah. It was cool. I wish he'd have been, a little bit more of a factor during the race so we could have enjoyed it a little bit more throughout the race. But great to see him get a good finish there. I
love how he handled the post race too. He basically said everything that he needed to say. Like, I'm never doing this again.
Yep.
I'm not sure I belong out here, but I was honored.
These guys are all better than me, and
I'm honored to be here. I had a great opportunity, and he's out. That's what Travis does, man. He does his thing and he pieces out. Yep. That was so cool. The best finisher of the 2311 crew.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
For that. He wasn't really a factor, but my God, he kept it clean, found a way up there.
He was clean enough at the end that he could have won it if things would have gone his way. So
yeah, exactly.
That's all it takes is a clean car, or not a clean car, because I didn't put it in the notes, but 8th place was Ryan Blaney, who literally wrecked out of this race.
Yeah, we'll talk fantasy league towards the end, but I benched him. I'm like, well, Blaney's out. He's out.
Yeah.
And put Corey LaJoie in his place, and I tumbled down the standings. I looked at the scoreboard and I went, what the F? Where did he come from with that piece of crap?
Well, I didn't even realize it until tonight as I'm coming home and I'm listening to Sirius and they're talking about Ryan Blaney finishing 8th. It's like, holy crap.
And remember, he brought out a caution for his tire came off.
Yes.
So I'm like, what in the heck, man? I think, he was a debris caution around like lap 140 or something like that. So, I was like, oh my God, no way. No freaking way. That was What a drive for the. I think he was probably the favorite, probably the betting favorite.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's got the curse of being the betting favorite at Daytona, because we know how that works out for these guys.
Joey Logano came within a couple inches of winning his second Daytona 500. He finished his second. Christopher Bell was up there. Chris Buescher was in there all day.
Yeah, I thought Kyle Larson before he pounded the wall.
I thought Larson was going to get this thing.
Yeah, it felt like it, right? I
Yeah.
felt like it was coming for him, but yeah, that wreck and those guys crashed. That last caution, those guys crashed so hard, so hard. Brad had a huge impact, and obviously Larson. I was legitimately like wondering if Kyle was all right,
Yeah.
because he did that, right front square impact at the front of the car, but he said he was okay. I saw the clips afterwards, because God knows Fox wasn't going to let us know if
Right.
Kyle Larson was okay,
God,
or anybody
Fox
was
is-
okay. I got something for them later.
Oh,
I'll
boy.
save it.
Oh,
I'll
boy.
save it. Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson finishes 31st in his return to the Cup Series. Had a good run going throughout
He
the
was
day.
up there late.
Yeah.
He was up there late.
Yeah, got
before
caught up in
wreck
one of the
day.
wrecks.
Yep.
Nothing to sneeze at for his performance. I thought he did a lot better than what I was expecting him to do.
Yep.
Again, it's a super speedway race. I think once we get to the other tracks he's going to compete at, it's not going to be as rosy for old Jimmer, but we'll see.
I think they knew he was there all day.
Yeah.
He was back and forth a little bit, but yeah, late in the race he was top 5, top 10, coming into some of those late cautions. But at that point, I think we all know it's who can survive. Unfortunately, some guys just get caught up in it and they're done. So
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else with the Cup race, James? Worth talking about? Oh, I put it in the wrong spot on the notes, but let's talk about the Fox debuted the driver's eye camera this weekend during the race, and I guess it's the one bright spot of the Fox broadcast. I thought, the helmet cam already was pretty damn cool, but the driver's eye is even cooler. The fact that Mike Joy showed it off during the broadcast it's smaller than a dime, really.
Yep.
And fits in the side of the helmet, and it literally gives you the driver's eye view through the visor and everything. And I'll tell you what, James, there's been many points in my life where I thought I could do this. I could be, if I would have gotten a chance or whatever, I could be a race car driver. And then I watched Ross Chastain go through that wreck with the driver's eye camera. And
yeah, never letting off the gas.
freaking lift.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, these guys are built differently than me. I could not do what they're doing.
Yeah, I was watching the race with some family, and he's going through that wreck, and I went, "Oh my God, he didn't lift!" And like everybody's like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Just listen to the engine. He just didn't lift."
Incredible, man! If they'd had that driver's eye camera last year at Martinsville, holy hell!
Oh my God, that would have been. It probably would have fallen off.
Yeah,
to be honest
probably.
with you. But no, that is a really cool piece of technology. I know there was some scuttlebutt about the blurring of the dash cam. Well, that'll hopefully get ironed out, because
I personally don't care if they're going to blur. I really don't care if they blur it. Who gives a crap? You can't see the stuff anyway.
I know. It just see out the windshield. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about it, but man, you let NASCAR Twitter get their hands on something, they like to
there's really not that much on that dash that really they're going to. NASCAR could very easily step in and say, "Tough, you guys. You're going to suck it up and deal with it." Personally, I'd like to see him put one of those things on every single driver, and I have a feeling eventually that will be what happens. But yeah, I don't know. It's whatever. Like I said, I'm not looking at the dash when I'm watching that camera view. I'm looking out the front of the car, and I guess if you're a team and you have access to that feed and you can watch the whole thing, maybe you can actually learn something from it. But I don't know, man. I think it was controversy over nothing, but I think the benefit, even if we got to look through. Even if we have to have a little bit of pixelation, it's worth it for that view. That was pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, and they had a lot of them out there, so that was really neat to see. Hopefully they'll keep it going. I'm sure they'll keep it going the rest of the year.
And I got to say,
that's really neat.
Some of the stuff they would do with the drone is pretty stupid and a big waste, but some of the stuff they do with the drone is pretty damn cool too. Fox has the presentation down if you want to look at it from an artistic standpoint. Just sometimes I wish they'd actually just show us the race.
Yes.
And preferably maybe a few fewer commercials, but yeah.
Well, yeah, especially when, and that's part of the story of the Daytona 500 was the first half of the race was the guys were very polite to each other.
Yeah.
The first two stages, and then business eventually picks up and it gets a little bit wild. But Fox. Anytime there was action, caution, they were off to commercials.
Yeah.
As soon as possible, and they try to cram them in there when they do.
You could tell even Mike Joy was frustrated though when he says, "Do we dare go to side by side?" Because he knows there's going to be a wreck as soon as they do.
Yeah, and they did too a couple of times. I know. Yeah, stuff was going on the track, and we're just watching commercials while it's silently cars are crashing on side by side.
Can I say that I love Tony Stewart in the booth?
He's pretty solid.
He's very solid for a guy that only does it a couple times a year. He's very solid.
Well, you get him again this week at Auto Club.
Yeah. And then we get Danica.
I think he's doing Atlanta too.
He's doing Atlanta, but then Danica's coming in for a little bit.
And then Danica's coming in, and I will be turning on the MRN.
Yeah, I'll be muting the audio for that too.
I did one of my favorite Tony comments was that Jimmy Johnson can walk on Lake Lloyd.
Yes, that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was. I was like, I don't know if that's a super insightful commentary, but it could be true. So yeah. I thought that was good.
I like Clint pointing out that 3 of Tony's cars were in the same wreck.
Yeah,
Tony's response to it, that was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and Clint used to drive one of those cars, so
right.
I think he's just busting his chops a little bit. I think Tony and Clint have good. Tony and Clint
chemistry.
are very good together.
Yeah.
I think next year, because we're not going to have Tony back next year. I think Kevin Harvick's going to do a great job.
Yeah, he'll do phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, he'll be great.
Yeah. NASCAR Xfinity Series, Austin Hill gets his second Daytona Xfinity Series race win in a row. Impressive all day long, man. This guy had to go to the back because they had radio issues at the start, and just came through the field and put on a clinic for these guys and showed them how to run an Xfinity super speedway race. Although his finish was a hell of a photo finish, even though it wasn't at the finish line.
Yeah. Well, that's another storyline from the weekend is none of these races ended up at the finish line.
They didn't.
The
ARCA race did.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Of all the races, the ARCA race did, but that's because they throw the caution even if it's on the white flag lap, but they didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Those guys look like the professionals, not the whole race, just the last lap.
Yeah, that's right.
The rest of the race, no, they did. We had to spin out in caution. Hell, we actually had a safety truck almost spin out under caution.
Yeah, I saw that too, sliding down the side. Yeah, sliding down the side. But yeah, the Xfinity Series race was good. I mean, Austin Hill made up for missing the 500 out of circumstances that weren't under his control. So back-to-back Daytonas for him. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
Sam Mayer, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Don't know. Boy, I mean, I don't know. That was a spooky of a wreck as I've seen. And, Myatt Snyder, I did it, Eric. Did I do it right?
You did it right. You said his name correctly.
Yes. Cool. I'm just going to say Snyder. Snyder had a big wreck there in the fall. Remember last year?
No, that was the same. That was.
Was that?
Yeah, that was
you're right.
That was the first race too. So 2 years in a row we've had a car on its lid. But Mayer's crash was scary because it looked just like Ryan Newman's, except nobody hit him on the driver's side.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
Thankfully, yeah.
And I mean, he did it right in front of the field too. So.
We don't need that. Yeah. Yeah, that's not something we need to have happen. We don't. Yeah, that was too scary.
And he said it was a hard hit too. Yeah. One of the hardest he's taken.
Well, it looked like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it was really hard. Yeah.
So what do we got to do to keep these Xfinity cars on the ground? Because the Cup cars stayed on the ground this weekend. We had no issues with those getting airborne, but these Xfinity cars, 2 years in a row, we've lifted one off at Daytona.
Yeah, I don't know. Eric, it's never gonna.
No.
It's never gonna. Yeah. It's never gonna stop. We can't. You get a car turned around the wrong way in the arrow. I think you and I have. I know you've said it before. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
These cars are always gonna lift.
This was about the easiest I've seen one go over, though. I mean, that sucker was going. There was no.
Yeah.
There was no stopping it. It was going upside down.
Yep.
As I said, both Cup and Xfinity races end with a photo finish in quotation marks at the moment of caution. What do you think, James? I mean, this sucks. It sucks that we don't get to race to the line, but there's not a solution to it, right? I mean, there's nothing we can do.
I wish they could just get to the line, but I mean, I understand.
And I don't think anybody really slows down because there's a caution on the last lap. They still are rocketing through the wreck. But man, you'd hate to just leave it green and have somebody get hurt or somebody be hurt and the safety crew can't get to them, a couple seconds slower.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like you can, I mean, I used to be in favor of the ARCA rule that they had to get back to the line, and if they didn't, you'd restart it. But this race already was the longest Daytona 500 in history, 212 laps. We don't need, another 30 because we can't get around in the last lap.
What if I told you I agreed with Kyle Busch?
That you wish it would go back to the original?
Yeah, just run the miles and call it a race.
There was so much crap with that though, because then NASCAR started throwing red flags and to try and, finish a race under green. And then there was controversy over when they threw the red flag. I mean, I went back and watched some of the old replays from those races, and it was just stupid. I think the system we have is the best we've got, the best we're going to get. I was really in favor of unlimited green-white checkers. I think we don't go over 3 very often, so I'm all right with that continuing as, unlimited. It just seems silly on these super speedways no matter what we do. They're going to wreck on the last lap. They're just going to.
Yeah. You have to leave it the way it is, because once you see the white flag, you can't, in my opinion, you can't go back a lap.
Yeah.
You just got to let it be. And we can criticize NASCAR for not racing back after that crash in the 500. But my God, if Kyle Larson or somebody was actually hurt and we still had cars coming around, I mean, you gotta an impact like that.
When the track's blocked, you gotta throw a caution.
Yeah, you can't do anything about it. Like you can't. It's not NASCAR's fault. They have to throw the caution there. It goes back to. I mean, Eric, gosh, how many times have you and I talked about what does a caution really mean?
Right.
And in the case of the 500, it was a safety. That was a safety thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the caution isn't for safety, but sometimes it's for entertainment purposes. But
right.
But this was a safety call. It's got to be a safety call, number one, first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's a solution. It's one of those things that sucks when it happens. I do know that if I was a driver in one of these races, I would not be racing to the checkered flag. I would be racing to the backstretch on the white flag lap, because we very rarely get past that point. The race is almost always won going into turn 3. So I don't know why these guys are waiting to make their moves. I would be certainly making them quicker than what they're doing.
Yep.
But and that just plays into the crapshoot luck of winning one of these races even more. Is that it's a luck of when that wreck happens and when the button's pushed for the caution. Yep,
and and kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's part of the reason I think we've gotten so many random winners in the 500 of late is because we pile up these cautions, but then you got guys who don't have to, not to say they're not racing for it towards the end of the race, but they're just right there at the right time. I mean, gosh, Brad was leading, what was it, 2 years ago into turn 3. Remember a few years before that, Almirola was leading into turn 3. So yeah, we've had a handful of moments where, we've had some guys in different positions, and all of a sudden it's, completely flipped on its head at the end of the race.
Not a whole lot to talk about with the Truck Series race. Zane Smith gets the first Craftsman Truck Series race win. Nice to see Craftsman back on the trucks. Can't miss it. It's probably the biggest spot I've ever seen on the windshield of a car. But race shortened to rain. This one really bummed me out. First of all, I was ready to watch some racing, and I checked the forecast leading in the weekend, and I was like, man, we're gonna get through this whole weekend without being affected by rain. Well, it's Florida.
Yeah, 56% of the laps in this race were under caution.
Yeah,
there's not much to say. After that, this was just kind of a get it over with situation at that point.
Yeah, nothing really happened in this thing. It was kind of just waiting for the excitement to start. Especially, man, these stages in the Truck Series on super speedways, we got a 15 lap stage. Come on, it's just stupid. Yeah, what the hell's the point?
Yep. Right.
So let's get rid of the stage stops in the Truck Series now too. I mean, it's just dumb that there's so little racing until we get to the halfway point, and then it's like, okay, now we can race. Well, so let's just only race the second half then. Screw the first half. Quit wasting my time.
Yep. Exactly.
So, anyway.
Yep, I agree.
I love stage racing.
I have nothing to add.
Love stage racing, but I do not like it on super speedways, and thankfully we don't have to deal with it on road courses anymore. So
that's right.
Maybe the road course thing will be a big success, and we'll do it everywhere. I don't know. I don't know that I wanted it 1.5 miles because I do think we need cautions there. to break things up.
Yep.
But we don't need to break things up on a super speedway. We don't need to break things up on a road course. So,
yeah. I will say, Eric, talk about Zane Smith for just a moment.
Yeah.
Obviously he raced in the 500. Was it kind of a big deal because we had all the champions in the same Daytona 500 for the first time.
Yep.
Zane obviously is one of the futures of Front Row. What do you think about how they're handling his situation now by kind of giving Todd Gilliland the side eye and bringing Zane Smith up? But you think he's going to be going cup racing probably next year? That's kind of what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, probably. I think it sucks
like
for Todd Gilliland. It's nice to see that Todd was able to pick up some weekends with another team.
Yeah, he's got one weekend to find. He's got to figure that one out. But he's got almost every race covered now. But
yeah, I mean, it sucks for Todd, and Todd kind of been on the short end of the stick a few times. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Zane is the future over there. I don't know if that's the best place for Zane to be personally, but
yeah,
I mean,
I think he might be overqualified for that situation.
Yeah, I think
he's
so.
A pretty good driver.
I think. So. I mean, I hate to say he's a Corey LaJoie type situation, but I think this is a driver that has competed with top names at the lower levels, and he's going to come up to the Cup Series and be in much lesser equipment. And I mean, Corey used to beat some of the guys that are champions now. So I mean, I don't know. I guess you take what you can get, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think for Todd, I think when Papa Bear signed with Toyota, that might have been, especially with Todd driving a Ford in the Cup Series. I don't know how that relationship seems political a little bit,
right,
in that instance. But
yeah,
Zane obviously defending champion of the sport. Not much really left to prove in the Truck Series, but he's gonna give her a go for the repeat. So I don't see why he wouldn't be able to. He's been really good for this is now his 4th full-time season in the Truck Series. So
yeah,
I think he'll do just fine when he goes up to Cup probably in a year.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else from Daytona?
Man, it was a weird speed week. I'm not saying speed weeks because it's not speed weeks anymore.
Right.
It's just kind of, it started up on Wednesday. I had a lot of fun with the duels, and then qualifying was fun, and then it was over. It's strange how fast it seems to go by now.
Yeah, it does feel like you just start the week, and it's all of a sudden it's the 500 already.
Yeah.
I think it definitely takes some of that prestige away from this race. It just isn't as, it'd be like if you went to Indianapolis and you didn't spend the month of May leading up to it, Yeah,
there's definitely something going on there. I can't pinpoint it just exactly, other than we're not spending the time down there. I think I talked about that last week, but not to dwell on it too much again, but we're not celebrating the week the way we used to.
Well, and maybe it's moving the Clash too. Daytona's not the first race of the year anymore. It used to be, it was, even though the 500 wasn't. The Clash was there. Maybe all that attention on LA has taken some of the attention away from Daytona. I don't know. It does kind of feel like we start the season up, then we take a break, and then we come back, and it wasn't like that before. It was 2 weeks leading up to the big race, and I don't know.
Yeah, this year for some reason doesn't feel like a build up to me. It feels like a little bit more of a whimper than a build up.
Yeah,
I can't. And I hope that's not just me. Maybe I do. Maybe I do hope it's just me, because I feel like, I'm excited for it, and I love the 500, but I just was not.
It wasn't an overwhelming Daytona 500, James. It just wasn't.
It was. Yeah,
it was a good race, but it wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't. There weren't. And maybe I'm biased because I watched it delayed in the evening trying to get through it. But it just didn't feel like it was that special this year, and it didn't feel like it had that moment.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it in the moment either. Obviously, I was excited to watch and everything like that, but it just didn't. It didn't have the gravitas, that it normally does. And I hope we can find it again in the next year or two. But I think the Clash is having an impact on this race.
Yeah,
I don't think it's positive. I think we're getting a little bit of build up, but we're not building up to the right event now.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I kind of agree with you at that.
Maybe maybe I don't know. I would be okay if we started the season with the Daytona 500, maybe snuck the Clash in between, or something. I don't know. I don't think I think we're marketing it wrong now. Yeah. I last year I didn't feel that way, but we had a lot of stuff going on last year, Eric. It was a different situation. We had a new car. We had a lot of stuff we were really excited about. This year,
maybe it's just how this year played out.
Maybe it could be. Yeah, it could be.
Maybe it was no practice. I don't know. I don't know. Just something was weird. I agree with you.
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I don't know what it is. I do feel, although like people outside my NASCAR bubble, I'm sensing I got a text today, and I'm not even kidding about this. I'm excited for F1 testing to start. And I said, you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
People are excited about F1 testing, but no, that's a thing, Eric. I don't see
any of that in my circles. So
yeah, I don't care. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't care about F1. Right. Like I don't care about any testing. To be honest with you.
But I mean, I don't see anybody even talking about it.
Yeah. See, the last time I cared about testing was when you and I had our overreaction to the Las Vegas test, and
the 550 aero package.
I feel like we need to revisit that podcast someday.
No, we don't. That podcast can burn.
Oh my God, that was such an overreaction. But yeah, no, I don't get excited about testing anymore. But yeah, no, I am glad that now we're heading into the season now.
Yeah.
Like let's go. But yeah, I think the Clash. If I had to pinpoint one thing, I think the Clash is starting to wear on people, on me at least.
I will say that I realize they reduced capacity here quite a bit, but how nice to see a sold out grandstand at Daytona.
Looked good.
Man, it was beautiful.
At the end of the race with no butts in seats because they were excited to see what happened. Yeah, I mean, that was cool. That was really cool. It
felt a little bit like, it used to back in the mid 2000s.
Yes.
With the people in the stands. So that was pretty cool.
Exactly. Yep. 100% agree with that.
A little cringy seeing Stenhouse do the pull up on the fence. I was a little worried for him. I always get worried when they climb up on those fence.
Yeah, man. Those are legit pull ups too after driving 500 miles. That's
a hell of a fall though if you fall.
Yes.
You're going a long ways.
I told somebody, I said, Tony Stewart climbed over that fence before. If Tony Stewart can get over that fence, Ricky can get up there. Yeah. He'll be fine.
I believe the fence that Tony climbed over, though, was the old fence, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Wasn't the new one.
No.
It's a little taller now than it used to be.
Yeah, Smoke was a little in better shape at one point.
Yeah.
Back then.
Maybe a little bit.
the Smoke of today ain't climbing no fences, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he might have only needed one jar of Crisco to get into a Formula One car back then.
Yeah. Oh man, he's lucky if he gets up in the tree stand now. That poor guy.
Right.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that dude. I don't know. This was the first year I was like, man, I don't know if Tony can drive it anymore, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
A couple news items. We completely just crapped the bed last week, James.
Oh yeah, we did.
Completely missed the news because we had a pretty decent discussion on Ross Chastain and whether he was gonna, what it was gonna mean for not re-signing with Trackhouse, and he'd already signed a multi-year extension with Trackhouse.
I know. I blame. Normally I'll take the blame. I'm blaming Twitter on this one because
it's Elon's fault.
It is Elon's fault because I was set up. I had my setup going. I had Twitter open, looking for breaking news. I wasn't really going through anything. And, I was watching the duels, and to be fair, I was like, right before we started recording last week, and
right.
we're just busy people. So it's that there.
My problem was that I was avoiding social media because I didn't want to see what was happening with the duels. So
yeah,
that's my excuse, but
yeah. So Eric, I think the funniest thing about this is, Daniel Suarez signs a multi-year extension and gets a nice graphic on social media.
Right.
And Mr. Ross Chastain, one career win more than Daniel Suarez, gets a massive press conference at Daytona.
Yeah.
And all the pomp and circumstance. So curious to see how that one plays out for him.
I mean, I realize that he's only got one more win than Suarez, but I mean, really, if you're going to put them two in a basket, who you picking, James? I mean, who's your priority at that team? It's not. Well, of course, no offense to Suarez, but it's not Suarez.
It's the viral sensation that is Ross Chastain.
Not even that, man. I think Chastain's got more ability than Suarez does.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
more.
I'm doing a thing,
I know.
to be honest.
I
But Eric, the funniest thing from Daytona, I don't know. Did I share this with you?
I don't know.
So people were allowed to write on Ross's car,
Oh no.
and somebody in big black Sharpie right on the hood wrote "Go Denny Hamlin" and circled it and put arrows on it. I had that. That was probably
That's
very
funny.
too enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
I really like that. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Ross hasn't changed a bit either.
No.
The way he was driving in the 500.
No. No, he has
And
not.
AJ Allmendinger.
Oh my gosh. Allmendinger
didn't
did
talk
it
about
twice.
that.
He did it twice. That move to stay on the lead lap or stay the first car lap down. That was incredible. That was Kevin LePage-esque if I've ever seen it.
Oh my God. I was nervous for the field.
But then I don't remember who it was he went underneath, but he basically went as close to going below the yellow line as you can without going below the yellow line into the turn. Like Allmendinger should have single-handedly gotten rid of the yellow line rule, because what he did there was no different than if you went in on the apron. And he just muscled his freaking way in there and took the spot, and that was it.
He's off to quite the start this year.
Yeah.
Rattling the cage back in the back for the his first year back in the
he's
the
doing
Cup
it at the
Series.
Clash too, and I don't know. And then did you see the NASCAR thing where they were asking drivers what they would give up to win the Daytona 500?
No, I didn't see that.
So everybody went through, and a bunch of them were like, give up this or just basic stuff. And Harvick said he wouldn't give up anything to win it because obviously he's already won it. And AJ said he would give up his left nut because he likes his right one.
I'm so glad he's back.
I know, me too.
He's gonna tick me off at some point.
yeah.
But that I'll take it. Yeah. Oh my God.
One other thing too, we missed. Jeffrey Earnhardt was ticked off at Parker Kligerman in the Xfinity race.
Oh yeah.
There was a video of their long, lengthy discussion in the garage area afterwards. Looked like they came to an agreement at the end. But Jeffrey, I think he'd have taken some swings if Kligerman would have been next to him.
Oh my God. Yeah, and I think Jeff coming on the download?
Yes,
yeah,
he's on
okay.
download this week.
We'll find out a little bit more from Uncle Dale.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be good.
I don't think you wanna piss that dude off. I think he's got some anger.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think Jeff is like one of those like like I always like to say farm strong.
Right.
He looks like he might be farm strong.
Yeah.
So I'd be careful.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to screw with him.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with that guy.
Only other news item this week, Richard Petty making some news. Apparently he wasn't in the news enough leading up to Daytona 500. So
I love this.
He commented on how he's unhappy with the direction of his team under Jimmy Johnson. And then I don't know if you caught it during the race. I'm sure you did between the commercials. Mike Joy clarified during the race yesterday that Richard Petty sold his interest in the team to Maury Gallagher.
Yes.
Richard Petty does not own any. This is not Richard Petty's team anymore. He has no say in this team whatsoever.
He's a little bit of a mascot now at this point.
And there was an article, and Jimmy said he was disappointed with the King making the comments in public. And I mean, I'll tell you what, man. First of all,
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious.
First of all, Richard, I mean, you're the king, right? You've won more races than anybody else.
Yep.
You've won 7 championships. But as a team owner, you haven't been that good.
No.
No. And Jimmy's got a chance to prove himself, and I think Maury Gallagher's done a pretty good job of proving himself. Yeah, I just whatever, I guess. I get it. I get it. It's hard to let things go, and somebody sticks a microphone in front of your face. You're going to talk.
Can we just point out the fact that the King is 85 years old? He's got no Eric.
No, you're right.
Eric, I've been dealing with lots of old people in my life. You know what the old people don't give?
Right.
Yeah, I don't have to say it, right? They don't give a.
Don't say it. And I don't have to bleep it.
None of them give a bleep about anything.
Yeah.
So when the King parachutes in out of nowhere and just starts dropping bombs in the press center, that's just because he's 85 years old. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
I love it. I thought it was hilarious. Now I'm not rooting for friction or anything. I am so glad Jimmy's involved, and I think that team's on the rise. I'm just here for the comedy that is the king coming in and just letting people have it for no reason, just because he's an old man. So
Yeah.
I can't. It's so funny. And then they had to stand, which I thought was even more hilarious, is the command to start engines. They had Jimmy at the complete opposite end of, his partner, the king.
Right.
Like they're not even standing next to each other at the command to start the engines. Oh, it was great.
That's funny.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
I figured there were already going to be some sore feelings there just because his name wasn't part of the organization anymore.
He has to be a little upset about it.
Sure.
But the 43 is not going anywhere. We all know what the 43 is.
Right.
It's the same reason when Kyle Busch's new wrap on his car is obviously an Austin Dillon car, but everybody's like, oh, there's Dale Senior.
Right.
Because you can see the 3 through the, through the wrap. So it's like, yeah, everybody knows what that number is. Yeah. It ain't, that's not Eric Jones's number. That's the King's number forever. So.
Yep, I agree. I don't think there's anything else, is there? I'm looking at the old Twitters.
We'll admit we've missed it by now, so it doesn't matter.
So yeah, let's talk about California. We're going to Auto Club Speedway supposedly for the last time on the current format before it is reconfigured into a short track. I'll believe it when I see it. But we get to make our picks for the weekend. I don't think I have fantasy on these notes either, so make sure to
Jordan
add that
Bianchi said today on the teardown, last night on the teardown, he said every conversation he's had so far leads him to believe that this short track will happen. And it may not be until 2025. He said he knows there was some possibilities that people thought, oh, this isn't going to happen now. There was some vagueness, but he said he's talked to some people that this thing is going to happen.
I will go back and say I don't think that we're going to run another race on this current configuration, but I feel like there's going to be some roadblock here, James. It concerns me. Looking at the picks from last weekend, I got by 10 points, picking Brad Keselowski over Michael McDowell. So I lead 25-15 right now, James, and as a result, you get the first pick for California. What's who are you going with?
Yeah. So I thought about this a little bit, and I think I got a good pick here. I am actually going to take a fellow RFK driver from your stable that you liked at Daytona, Eric, but I'm going the other way. I'm taking the 17.
Wow. That's a good one. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Give me the 17. Give me Christopher Buescher.
Yes. Oh, that makes it tougher for me because now I don't know which way to go. Because
as you can see, I have a little bit of a strategy to the new pick system. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to burn up too many good drivers, but I might have to. If I get too far behind, then it's gonna get interesting. So
yeah, well, I'm just gonna bet on the fact that I'm gonna be in the lead a lot, which means you're gonna get first pick. And these races where he's expected to win, I'm not gonna get a chance at him anyway. And I'm just gonna throw Kyle Larson out there right off the bat.
Well, there you go.
Take Larson off the board for me.
All right, you're gonna burn a Larson. I'll take Mr. Buescher.
Yeah, he was my first pick. I was leaning towards Joey Logano too, but I don't want to waste Joey yet.
All right. Well, I'll make the changes in the spreadsheet. So we are locked and loaded, sir.
There you go. Fantasy update, James. I know I beat you this week, and an old familiar,
you did. You had a great
old familiar favorite took the win.
An old friend. So 3-time champ was first, 176. Our buddy Barron Speedway second, and Jeff. A new entry. Jeff Gordon for GOAT was third. Eric, you were just a couple off the pace there, fast to the grass fourth, and then you were fifth. I was all the way down in 12th.
And I believe
we got up to
17 people in the field, and 16 made picks this week.
Yep, I'll throw Hot Rod Todd a quick hey man, go ahead and make your picks for next week. You're not out of it by any means. So if you want to still be in it, let us know, and we'll make sure that you're out there. But yep, that was there's no points picks obviously, or no point standings. That's it. One race down, one race to rest of the season to go, I should say. So, but yeah, I did the thing. I wasn't looking at any of the live scoring. I wasn't gonna risk it. So, But yeah, good times. Yeah, I'm so happy it's back. Oh yay. Yes.
There you go. Any shout outs this week, James?
There was a commercial from NASCAR that I thought was very good to celebrate the 75th anniversary. And it's all over their social media channels, but it just kind of goes through the history of NASCAR in about, I don't know, 45 seconds. It was just a really good commercial. I think I've liked it or retweeted it once, but it's out there. NASCAR social channels. I thought it was really good. The only thing I didn't like was the Dale Earnhardt, Terry Labonte section looked like a couple of late models, but other than that, it was pretty good.
That's cool.
So I really have enjoyed. NASCAR did a good job, I think, starting off with some of the history stuff that they're going to be, obviously pushing throughout the year.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Other than the logo, the logo's growing on me.
Logo's not great. It's not great.
It's growing on me.
Yeah.
But actually, I like the one that they had with just the NASCAR stripes and the 75 better than the actual 75th.
Yes, the one that's on the one that's on the arm patch.
Yeah, I like that much better.
Yep.
James, does the name Matt Preer ring a bell for you at all?
It does, but I don't know why.
So Matt Preer is a local announcer here in Michigan who's announced all kinds of different races and stock cars and stuff. He was former announcer at Tri-City Motor Speedway, announced at Birch Run for a while.
Yes.
He's the voice of the Suai 500, does some hockey announcing and stuff as well. Last year, Matt, he's known as Hollywood around here. Last year, Matt made his debut with PRN Radio, I believe it's last year, at Texas Motor Speedway with an Xfinity Series race. And this year, he is making his NASCAR Cup Series debut with PRN Radio at Bristol Motor Speedway for the dirt race. So
awesome.
Congratulations to Matt for doing that. He's been posting it on social media a little bit. Posted a picture today, I think it was, working on doing some studying for the race. It worked out for him because it's Easter weekend and nobody wants to work. But hey, man, whatever shots you can get. This guy's been doing it a long time. He does a good job. And I worked as an assistant for a couple weeks at Tri-City back in the day. So I've talked to him a few times and friends with him on social media, and it's cool to see him get an opportunity. I mean, as somebody
that's really cool.
As somebody who grew up dreaming of announcing NASCAR, that's a pretty cool thing for somebody to accomplish around here. So very neat.
Nice. Absolutely. Very cool.
Any black flags out of the weekend, James? Just one big one for Fox? I mean,
I gave it to Fox a little bit. I mean, they really are the black flag of all black flags. It's just that coverage is just so bad.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. I don't know if I could talk about it anymore. It's just, I don't know. I feel like usually you kick off the anti-Fox
right
start.
See, I didn't have much of a problem with it because I could just skip the commercials. I watched the whole race in like an hour and a half because there were so many commercials.
Yeah, at the end of the race, I don't think I highlighted this, but the end of the race, they never showed the moment of victory.
Yeah,
for Stenhouse.
They didn't even show a replay of the wreck.
No, they didn't. They just basically told us that Stenhouse was the winner without showing us a picture of the caution. There was no camera stopped yellow light, so we just had to assume
show it during the Xfinity race either.
Yeah,
that was
not great.
That was tweeted.
If you're going to, man, you gotta know going into Daytona and Talladega, you gotta be ready for that moment. Like I mean, the race is coming for, an entire year that you've got the broadcast rights. Be ready. Also, those were some really bad hits at that last crash, and not a mention of, hey, Kyle Larson's out of the car. Like,
right.
Brad Keselowski's out of the car, and they're walking around. They're okay. No, you have to go to Twitter and check Bob Pockris's tweets that, yes, treated and released from the infield care center. Just unbelievable. Like, it's just basic. I don't know. It's basic stuff. And Larry Mack's great. There's not enough Larry Mack, in my opinion.
Oh, man.
We could.
It's so bad that they were using in the Xfinity. Can't remember if it was the Xfinity race or the Truck Series race, but they were actually using his recording of the tech stuff about the car. And it's like, come on, just let Larry be live, man.
Yeah, highly intelligent parts of the race that are good for new fans, and you're just completely missing the boat with some of this stuff. I just feel like it's a lot easier than what it needs to be. They're just making it harder. So that's my personal opinion on it. Other than that, I'm gonna let it go. But that's my black flag. That's just Fox, just not doing a great job.
I'll probably pick it up for you next week. I've got a couple. I want to start with James, September 13th, 2022. Do you know what that date was?
Oh, I would have to guess, but go for it. What is it?
That date was the day that Kyle Busch announced that he was going to go drive for RCR.
Oh, okay.
So that means since September 13th, 2022, people have had plenty of opportunities to make number 8 graphics.
Oh, yes. I know
for Kyle Busch.
Okay.
And for their social media posts. And yet we continue to see multiple people tweet out Kyle Busch announcements, Kyle Busch news with M&M stuff and number 18. As a matter of fact, even Fox did it. Come on, guys, get your crap together. He drives the 8 car. He's driving a Chevrolet now. My gosh.
Yeah, twice last week I saw 18 graphics with new sponsors and just shook my head.
Yeah.
Just terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, just silly. I can't remember what my other one was, but so James, are you familiar with Chat GPT?
Oh yeah.
Have you played with it at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So today I went on Chat GPT and just playing around, I'm like, write me a 500-word story recapping the Daytona 500. And let me see if it still has my history.
Yeah,
Chat. I want to see.
You and I talked about Chat GPT off air last week, and I basically teased you that it's going to take your job.
Yeah.
And then you said that's not funny because it very well could take my job. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
I'm less worried about it now because
after the 500-word story.
So here is the 500-word story. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll jump around in it. 500-word story recapping the 2023 Daytona 500.
This might be a new segment, Eric. We might have to do this if this is good. Yeah.
The 65th running of the Daytona 500 took place on February 19th, 2023 at the Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. The race saw some of the world's top drivers compete against each other for the top spot in one of the most iconic events in motorsport.
Okay.
After several rounds of qualifying, the field was set for the 200-lap race. Total of 40 drivers took the green flag, including Michael McDowell, 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson, and 2022 Cup Series champion Chase Elliott.
Oh. Oops.
Yeah, right?
There's one.
From the outset, it was clear that this year's race would be full of action and drama. The lead changed hands several times, drivers jostling, blah, 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 blah. Several crashes and caution periods throughout the race. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured. As the race progressed, a few drivers emerged as frontrunners, including Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch. Hamlin, who had won the race in 2016 and 2019, looked particularly strong, leading for a total of 98 laps throughout the race. However, in the final stages of the race, things took a dramatic turn. With just a few laps remaining, Hamlin was leading the field with Harvick and Busch close behind. But as they approached the start-finish line in the final lap, Busch made his move, pulling out a line and attempting to pass both Hamlin and Harvick on the high side. It was a risky move, but it paid off for Busch, who managed to get ahead of Hamlin and Harvick coming off of turn 4. In a thrilling dash to the finish line, Busch managed to hold off Hamlin by just a few inches, crossing the line first and taking the checkered flag. It was an emotional victory for Busch, who had previously won the Daytona 500 in 2017. In his post-race interview, he praised the team for their hard work and dedication, saying he couldn't have done it without him. They even have a quote from Kyle Busch. Feels amazing to win the Daytona 500 again, Busch said. It is such a special race, and it means so much to everyone in the sport. I am just so proud of my team and everyone who helped us get here. This is a moment we'll never forget. Hamlin, who finished second, was gracious in defeat, congratulating Busch on his win.
This sounds like fan fiction,
right?
Rather than anything else.
Yeah, the first one had Martin Truex Jr. winning it, and Kyle Busch as a past winner. So, yeah. If I click regenerate response right now, it will regenerate it. And let's see, record-breaking crowd, over 200,000 fans in attendance. Kyle Larson won it, claiming his second Daytona 500 win in 3 years.
This is completely fabricated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
So Larson dominated the race.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I think you're safe for at least 2 more years.
On lap 123, a multi-car wreck brought out the caution flag and forced several drivers, including defending champion Michael McDowell, to retire from the race.
Whoops.
Yeah. So, yeah, don't be firing journalists for ChatGPT just yet.
Wow. Well, you got at least 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, a little bit longer. So James,
Eric, I was going to ask. I was just gonna say, Pete Davidson was making the rounds pre-race.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on Pete Davidson?
I didn't
in
see
his
it.
hoodie.
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay, he really is everywhere.
Oh, that's who it was in the hoodie, huh? I didn't. I guess I saw pictures.
That's
on
Pete
Getty.
Davidson. Yeah.
I didn't see who. I
Yep.
didn't see who it was.
Yep.
So yeah, whatever.
Yep. Of course, MJ was there.
Yeah.
Gosh, there was a bunch of Yep. The celebrities come out for the 500. There was a handful of them there.
I don't know if they showed any of it on Fox. I didn't get to see any of it, but I heard that the Thunderbirds put on a hell of a show during pre-race.
Yeah, that looks cool every time.
Yeah. So, there we go. James, anything else before we head on out?
Nope, I'm good, buddy. Let's go to California.
All
We'll
right.
go back to California.
Yeah, right. Where can people find you on social media if they want to hit you up?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/TheSuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find old episodes of the podcast. Show notes, links to articles we discuss, past race coverage, etc., etc. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and Anchor. If you go to anchor.fm/thesuperspeedway, you can leave us an audio message, and we might just play it on the show. Talk some smack about the fantasy league. Tell us what your favorite moment of the weekend was. Complain about Fox or whatever else, or complain about us even. You can do that there. Subscribe to the podcast for new episodes each and every week. We'll be back next week to break it all down. California Speedway. Well, it's Auto Club Speedway, not California Speedway anymore. Last race on the 2 mile oval before we tear it up and go short track racing in a couple years. Like I said, we'll be back next week to break it all down. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.